Back at it this week. Had a couple of weeks off doing other stuff, so I'm back at the grind. Some of the things we're going over today, aileron spar, we're putting that together and gluing it. The flap spar is glued and in place, and putting in the false ribs. There's the flap spar put into place. It is probably the trickiest part of the build so far. And what I've got, you cut the notches in there. Focus. And they're just a real pain because it's at an angle. You see here what I did, I actually added a little filler piece because I'd cut too much at a certain angle and it left too much space there. So I just took in a piece of spar webbing and slid it in there to act as a shim in there and glued that in. Otherwise it went all right. It's just getting that angle because everything is at an angle. The spar itself goes this way, the ribs itself go this way, so getting that grooves cut in there is kind of a pain in the butt. But that's done and it's in place. And like I said, I added a little shim there. There's a couple other places I added shims that was just a little too loose. You start cutting it and you fit it, you need to cut a little bit more and you fit it and you cut a little bit more, then all of a sudden, shoot, I cut too much. So just add a little shim inside there. Aileron spar. I've got it built, laid up along that edge. Pretty straightforward, 1/4 inch by 3/4 inch with an 1/8 inch ply. Those that are building from scratch, that 1/8 inch ply, I've already gone through one sheet of plywood there. So that's the thing that you're going to use the most is the 1/8 ply. One wing done, one sheet of 1/8 ply is gone. There's a little bit left over, but I haven't finished the wing yet, and what we have to do is do all the round things here. So I'm betting that that will take care of those. And here's what I'm talking about. That's out of 1/8 ply, and those are the nose caps on each of the spars all the way down. They're not very big, but there's a lot of them. 30 of them required. So those caps will go on the front there, and I'll bet you I'm going to use the rest of that piece of plywood, 1/8 ply, to do it. So grab yourself, if you're building from scratch, you'll need a bunch of 1/8 ply right off the bat. So there's the aileron spar. There's the false ribs in place. I haven't glued them yet because I'm just going to wait to get the false rib out of the way so I can move this right to the edge. And I've got my plastic paper on there. I don't want the glue sticking to the plans. I want it on the plastic paper. So I'm just going to move it ahead and get all those false ribs in there. But that looks pretty good. They're just sitting in place there now. I'm really happy with that. One thing, and I've measured a dozen times, this rib, and I wondered about that when I was putting it together, the spar together. It's right in line with the hole for the strut mount. I guess that is. That's the metal piece that'll come down and what holds the wing to the fuselage. So that's strut mount. I wondered, should I move the rib over a little bit to get between them so we can have that bolt straight through? But then I thought, anyways, there's going to be a piece of metal here that's going to stand proud of this. So we're going to have to cut this support out anyways, no matter where it sits, because there's going to be a chunk of metal in there. And this little chunk isn't going to do much to support. You've got the main spar right there. That was probably built just to give you the point of how far the rib goes in. That's the stopping point to stop the rib and go right against the spar. So the strength from that isn't a problem. I'm sure we can take that out. And like I said, right here you're going to have to notch it anyway, wherever it would sit, so that that piece of metal can sit in there. I'm just going to take that one and I'm going to take it and cut it right out of there so that the piece of metal will fit there, and we can get the bolt in there as well. Because right now it's sitting right on there. That was the one thing with that. It'll be interesting to see if others have had that same. Algie's just building, I don't know if this is a Dakota Hawkwing. Algie's building the Youngster, I believe, to see if it matches up. There's a few other people building a Dakota Hawk out there to see how theirs match up. Now, I measured and measured and measured, and I looked at the plans here, and here you've got the bolts for that strut mount, and they're outside of that false rib. They show the false rib there. Now I measured, these plans are 2-to-1. I measured the distance to here on these plans, and it's 45 1/8 of an inch, which goes to 90 1/4, which actually lines up bang on with these holes is 90 1/4 to that hole. And on the plans, that's where I drilled it, was to 90 1/4. So the ribs on the big plans just don't line up where they're supposed to line up, because theoretically this rib should be over here somewhere, and it's not. So, and you can see that it wouldn't be anyways. It would have to be over here, which is not even close to center, or these would be moved over. Well, according to the big plans, these two holes should be over here. So you're going to have to move it a couple inches. And again, if you read the actual dimensions, it doesn't work out that way. So I'm happy with the solution of just getting rid of that little piece of filler in there, and we'll put the bolt right through there. Otherwise, everything else looked okay. There's a block for one of the other. That's probably the jury strut. It gets mounted on there. Not in the way of a spar at all, or a false spar. And this final one's right at the back there. That one turned out good. So, everything looks set. Just spent the day cutting up more rib caps. I've got all the false spars for the first wing. I don't have them all cut yet for the second wing. So I was on the table saw making some sawdust today. Those that are doing it from scratch have a bit more work to do than the guys who have the kit. If you have the kit, all of your rib caps are grooved and cut already, which is nice. That's what I started off with today. I took a piece of spruce, cut it down to, the caps are 3/8 by 5/16. So you get it pretty close with the table saw, and then you use the planer and get it to the final dimensions. So that has been done today, and then you have to still cut the groove in there. You see in there the little groove in all the caps. All that takes time. I know Elgie was debating how much time it took to build, the ribs and stuff like that, how much time it may take. For those who are doing it by scratch, it takes considerably longer because every single little piece of wood actually has to be machined out of that large stock. So, yeah, it takes a little longer. And that's the same with the plywood too. I just have sheets and sheets and sheets of plywood, and again, everything's got to be cut down to the dimensions, then machined to the specific size. The trailing edge, everything has to be angled. I was watching Elgie unpack his box the other day, and they were even already angled for him and everything like that. So that's good. Cutting out all those. If you've got a kit, those are all cut out for you, which is nice. I'll have to borrow Elgie's jig because I haven't even started cutting out my nose caps yet. That has to be done. That's a big job probably in itself. So that's it. Another day.